Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I am Tina. Today I'm doing a book review of Tech War by William Shatner. This is a book from 1989 from Ace Putnam. It's a sci-fi book. The cover is absolutely beautiful. This is a lovely cover. I love the colors. It's very 90s. I found this book at a used bookstore, obviously. It might have even been Value Village. So, of course, I had to buy it. This is one of those that's on the very, very brink of being classic sci-fi. In truth, it rides that line so steadily, it might as well be painting the road markings. But I'm going to give it my classic sci-fi treatment anyway because it's fun. As such, there are no spoilers in this review until the book bingo at the end. What is it about? Set in 22nd century LA, peopled with robot cops, seductive androids, and dazzling hardware, Tech War chronicles the exploits of tough ex-cop Jake Cardigan. Framed by an unknown enemy for allegedly dealing tech, a mind-altering, highly addictive computerized drug that is poisoning society, and sentenced to 15 years on a prison module, Jake is mysteriously released after only 4 years of compulsory coma. Returning to Earth, he finds that his wife and son have left him and that the Cosmos Detective Agency is anxious to employ his services. Signing on with Cosmos, Jake sets out for Mexico to investigate the well-orchestrated disappearance of a prominent scientist, his lovely daughter, and the anti-tech device that they may be carrying. On arrival, Jake steps into a nest of viperous characters, all desperate to possess the machine for their own nefarious purposes. Drug lord Sonny Hikori, with whom Jake has, tangled in the past, and who may be the man who framed him. Drug enforcement agent Kurt Wintergild, who wants Jake off the case, one way or another. And enigmatic, morally ambiguous entrepreneur Bennett Sands, with whom Jake has a bitter personal score to settle. Each man has the same goal, survival, but even Jake Cardigan's matchless powers of deduction and personal courage may not be enough to win the ultimate game. A plotting, rather dull sci-fi detective story. Tech War lacks the commentary for Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep and the style of Miller in Leviathan Wakes in terms of the detective story. And it's also lacking the action from the latter and other sci-fi books too, if I'm being completely honest. The biggest issue with the novel is that the story is very much low stakes. The main character, Jake, is tasked with finding a missing father and daughter, but the importance of this is neither very striking nor is the mystery overly compelling. It's basically Jake going to a place, meeting a contact, talking about stuff, maybe escaping some goons, and then doing it all over again. There's nothing exciting about the story, and the main character, while not unlikable, is pretty flat. For example, near the start, we learn that he has a possible addiction to tech, which is a device that lets you live in a fantasy world. It's essentially VR. But that has no repercussions or ripples through the novel, really at all. If you want a really good show about kind of VR virtual worlds, check out Maniac on Netflix from a few years ago. It's really good. Likewise, Jake also learns on page 10 that his wife has left him. He's in suspension for 7 years, so to him no time has passed, but he doesn't seem to have any real emotion about their divorce at all, even though it came completely out of nowhere, and he purported that they were happy before he went into suspension. So I was like, what? He tries to find out what happened from her, but he doesn't seem to care. Like, he doesn't cry about the situation. He doesn't seem sad at all. It's very weird. In truth, it seems like that was an attempt to give him like a sad, like noir cop backstory, but it doesn't work. The minor characters are all pretty bland. There is one, though, an android woman who at least kicks ass, but she's not in the story long enough to carry it. There is an attempt at futuristic world building, but given most of the story takes place in restaurants, dark streets, and hotel rooms, we don't get to see anything overly cool about the future. There are robots, penal colonies in space, that kind of thing, but most of the story deals with Jake hanging around in a Mexico that isn't quite different from today. In general, it's just a very mediocre book that Shatner probably got a publishing deal for because he's Captain freaking Kirk. If you want a really good, weird sci-fi, check out The Automatic Detective from A. Lee Martinez. It's one of his more serious books, and it totally nails the noir feel, and the detective is an android, which is really cool. There's also Gun with Occasional Music by Jonathan Lethem, but that one is totally weird, and so I don't super recommend that one to anybody, but I really like that one. So, on that note, I'm going to move into my classic sci-fi bingo for you here. As usual, there are spoilers with this. It's just a way for me to kind of like talk more about this book that really doesn't have a lot to talk about, but here we go. Outdated science. Yes, there are tons of outdated science, especially for a book that's supposed to be set in 2120. So I'm just going to read you a couple of them because they're kind of amusing. The robot's chest whirred and hummed for nearly a half minute. Then a small booklet emerged from the slot on his chrome chest. Jake asked, "Do you ever run out of paper?" Why is the robot printing out pieces of paper? Like, even in Star Trek, they had, they don't think they used paper, did they? I can't remember. Maybe they did. But, no, didn't they? Anyway, that one I was just like, that one seems ridiculous. And then the next one, a panel in the far wall slid silently open, revealing the phone alcove. It was furnished with a padded metal chair, a stand, and a vid phone. It's kind of, that's a very like late 80s way of picturing the future. Like, video phones were so big back then. Everyone thought that we'd have video phones in the future. And we do, but we just don't have them as a separate kind of unit. So spaceship crashes? No. Sexy female scientist. Beth, the android, who is also a copy of the real woman, is a scientist, or at least an electronics wizard. The thing is, I would argue that she's not hypersexualized, really, so it doesn't get a check mark. She does stuff for the plot, too, so she's not just there to be like, hee, look at my beakers. So I would argue that she's not a sexy female scientist because she's not, like, relegated as an object in that sense. There's no cool aliens, there's no alien-human romance, there's no generation ship, and there are no space soldiers. For AI and robots, yes, the book even starts with a robot. They are very much Data, but with bad attitudes. And the one specific type of robot I will talk about later in another one of these checkboxes that is actually the coolest thing about the book in kind of a morbid way. And there's the android Beth, of course. I'm Beth Kittredge. Well, you know what I mean. An android simulation of Beth containing all her memories, feelings, and so on. They go on talking about it. She's kind of like a prototype. There's no new worlds, there's no cyberpunk. Now, sexism. As I mentioned before, Beth, while being an android, does have the feelings and female identity of human Beth. And while Jake is attracted to her, she's smart, resourceful, kicks butt, and has her own goals. She's not as well-rounded as Jake, but she's also not the main character, and Jake is hardly well-developed anyway, so it's not like she's competing for that. So I thought Beth actually was a great character. I really liked Beth. And I was sad that she wasn't in it as much, and I was very sad when she died. And then we have Warbride, who is simply just a badass rebel leader who takes no shit, and, well, she is hot, of course. She's not, like, hypersexualized either. She's super cool, and I really liked Warbride as well. The cast is quite the sausage fest, but there are women here and there, and so it was pretty good for 1989. Not terrible. So yeah, I would argue that there's no kind of sexism in the book, but Shatner himself, I haven't decided. Anyway, for other technology, there's none of that LGBTQ plus representation. There's no kind of representation in that a character is LGBTQ plus, but in a brothel, a group of men are offered a selection of male or female android sex workers, and none of the dudes get offended by being offered a male sex bot. So that suggests to me that LGBTQ plus is gay stuff is accepted in this future, that it's not something that men, if they're hit on by another man, would get like offended about, you know what I mean? Portals, microfiche, male MC is a dick, none of that. Racial equality, yeah, we have people of color all over the place in this book, and there's no real stereotyping or anything like that, at least that I picked up on. There's no like kind of slanderous, there's no slurs. So that's nice. Plasma or other weapons, yes, we definitely have that kind of stuff. What I found most interesting wasn't the weapons, but this like kind of everyday construction thing. A crew of workmen in hover packs were working on the tangle with laser torches while a copter crane came rising up to go to work. It's so funny. It's like, let's take things that are working perfectly fine and just like make them slightly more advanced, even though those probably wouldn't make the job go any faster. It's like a drill works perfectly fine. They're like, no, it's a laser drill. It's like, how would that do anything? Anyway, I just thought that was funny. So there is that kind of stuff. It's not post-apocalyptic. Assassins, yes, there are robot assassins. This part was actually wild. So they make a robot that looks like someone you know, and then that robot approaches you on the street, and you're like, oh, my aunt or whatever, and then the robot blows you up. It's crazy. It's wild, actually. I was like, oh my god. It's also like really scary, actually. Yeah. Galactic War, yes. Tech of today, not really, actually. Like, I didn't see any technology from today other than, like, there's no cell phones. There's no, yeah, not really. It's like they're gonna go make these like laser. They're gonna make crane helicopters, but they're like not gonna have cell phones. So it's interesting. The Bechtel test, honestly, I don't remember. I think Beth and Warbride talk, but does it count if she's talking to an android? I don't know. It won't get a bingo anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but yeah. And it does not get any of my quick pick bonus books. I will have to say one thing about the ending. So at the end, Jake, Beth the robot is dead. So Jake is like, I'm going to go find Beth the human woman. Okay. So imagine you're a human woman and I know, imagine, right? Imagine you're a human woman and you flee you flee this crazy situation you were just in where you were like a hostage, all this stuff in a plane crash. And you go to like a remote place to get away from it all, to be safe. And then one day this man shows up who says he has the hots for your android copy. Like, what part of this does Jake think? What does Jake think he's going to accomplish? Is he going to go there and he's going to make this woman fall in love with him? But she has the feelings and emotions of the real woman. But all the situations she was in with Jake are what caused her to be receptive to Jake in the first place. Beth, the real woman, doesn't have this relationship with Jake. To her, she's just this older man that shows up, this washed up cop. Why would she be interested in him? I don't understand. I just don't know what this ending is supposed to be. It's so silly. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna go talk to the real woman and we're gonna fall in love. And it's like, I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, good luck, I guess.